Alright guys, so I mentioned in my last video about this engine and venting this crankcase here. What I did get in was something that I felt like was a good product. I don't really see anybody using these, so I just wanted to kind of show you what they are. They're basically these. It's a PCV valve. This one I've already opened. So what these do is, here, I'll show you. If I blow through this side, you hear the air coming through. If I blow through this side, so it's a one-way valve. So, let's say, I think there should be an arrow on here. Yeah, there's a little arrow, shows which way the air can go. So in my situation, I'm going to use two. You probably can do it with one, but I'm going to use two. Because, you know, the piston moves two ways. So when it goes this way, you need a vacuum, and when it goes down, you need a vacuum. Because when it goes this way, it's going to be having a vacuum down there, but it's going to be creating pressure, which you want to expel. So one is better than none. In the stock valve covers, there is a PCV valve of sorts. Now, this comes into play when you use a billet head valve cover. If anyone goes out and buys, you know, NR Racing or Bullfrog billet valve cover, they don't have that baffle in there. Or if you've put, like I have, you know, a stock valve cover but taken the baffling out. Or if you've just broken the baffling somehow, or if the baffling doesn't work. And even that baffling, honestly, isn't airproof. If you put on a brand new one, air hose, it made it airtight and blew into it, and it's not airtight. So these, let me give you the part number. I got these cheap. I think I got 3 for 15 bucks. Definitely made in China. It's a one-way non-return. It's a liquid or air valve. So it's a one-way check valve, 10 millimeter, 3/8. I use 3/8 inch tubing when I'm doing my venting, but there's the part number. X001KACYOZ. So most of the times you're going to have a vent coming from the head and a vent coming from the block. I don't have the vent coming from the block yet, but let's just use this. I'm not going to be using this one. This is a straight 1/4 inch NPT National Pipe Thread. So say if that was there. So you have a air coming out of this fitting here on the engine's head, and say you have air coming out of there. Now, if you just take a tube and connect these two, nothing is gonna actually create a vacuum. It's just gonna go flip-flop back and forth. It's gonna create pressure down here, which is gonna put pressure up here. This has an oil passage down the side, which is just gonna push the oil. Nothing is gonna ever create a vacuum. So what you need to do to create a vacuum is a one-way check valve. Basically, if you just have any of these somewhere in this system, whether you connect these two together, put a T and just have one, or if you run, say, this one here, put one in line here, and put another, say if you run, you know, I'm waiting for a 90, it should be coming today. So if I have a 90 here, I'm going to install one of these here and one of them here. And then after that, I'm going to T and come off of that. I don't know exactly how I'm going to set it up. I don't know how much oil I'm going to get through the tube. That's one thing I want to check. But that's probably going to go to an overflow can. Because there's another thing with the one-way valve is it's not going to let, you know, the oil back in. So you're going to need to either bring this to your overflow can, or take, I don't know if you guys can even see this, or you'll have to saw this off. This is something I did on my drag cart. I took my dipstick, or I think I used the other oil plug, cut this off flat, and then tap the fitting down into there. And then that, basically I would just screw in. It would have now a fitting, and you know, if all the breathers are coming through, the oil can just run back down into the bottom end, so that way you're not emptying overflow cans. I feel like that's one of the better ways to do it. Whether I'm going to do it in this application, I don't know. But that's just something that I do. Now, another thing I haven't quite talked about yet is jetting. Now, okay, before we get into jetting, let me show you what I got going on over here. Alright, so this over here, this is what I'm working on now. I just came from the machine shop. So I've done 2 of these now, okay? You're probably looking at this like, what the hell has he done to this head? Now this first one was just a head that I had sitting around. I had this, it was milled before. This is a head that I had just played with. I had it milled. I've never even ran this. Has it been run? It might have been run. But this is a head that I just took off, had milled, and never really used it. It has stock size seats and stuff in it. So I wanted to do something with this head, because this head I had already had welded, so I already had money invested in this. So this head first, this was my first attempt. Now, I ended up just doing this with like some Sawzall, and I ended up taking out more of this material than I needed to. So this is the second one that I did. I did this yesterday. Now it does still come through up here, and it does still come into the spring pocket, which needs to happen. I mean, the only reason we're doing this is because we need it bigger. So this is some pipe. I've marked it up. But when you insert this pipe, one nice thing about aluminum is that it kind of follows suit. So I mean, not even welded in yet or tapped in with a hammer, just loosely fit. I mean, that pretty much seals that up. When he comes in here and welds this up, I'm going to have him fill this whole back of this with weld. Fill all up in here with weld. So that way when I get in there and I start cleaning up the port, I'm going to show you the other side. So this is how it's going to look. That'll be lined up with the guide. So, that being said, I'll show you without the pipe. Now, the last head I actually had flow tested is the head that's on this cart right now. This head flows 172 CFM, which is decent. That can make a lot of power. That's real air. Compared to a stock head that flows like less than 100. So, that being said, I just came from the machine shop, and we just ordered a new valve seat. Now the valve seat we ordered has a 1 3/4 inch outside diameter and a 1.540 inside diameter. It's 315 thousandths deep. So he's gonna put that into this head, and we're gonna go from there. Once that's in the head, okay. So when you listen to those numbers and stuff, and you're looking at this port, now the first thing I think of when I'm looking at this port is flow. Alright, so let me just show you how I see flow. Let me get something like a straight edge. You guys see a straight edge over there? Drill bit. Sure, let's use this. Okay, hold on, let me put you on a tripod. In my kitchen. Alright, so now this is, I'm going to stand behind the camera, so I'm doing kind of first person views, so you guys really get a good look at this. Okay, so now right now, to the untrained eye, this looks like a fucking horror show, right? You just hear that music, but here's the thing, there's the oil passage, you can see right into that. So let me just go through this step by step. So you've broken through the oil passage, okay, and you plan on tubing it. So this is the end that's going to go in it. All right. So we get this in here. We'd give it a couple smacks with a hammer on this end to get it in nice and tight after it's welded, yada yada yada. So when it's put in properly, it basically covers, I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, it basically covers that port, the oil passage. Now after, let me see if I can get a little bit. It's not gonna let me. All right, but whatever. So this port right here, I mean, it looks bad, but it's not even necessary. It is, well, first of all, let me just correct that. It is necessary for this. You do need to get oil up here somehow, some way. If in fact you just want to take this and fill this with weld, something else you can do, just drill right down into here. This is where the oil comes up, and from here it comes up and goes over there. So it's just two drill ways. It's just this way and that way. So if this in fact here gets blocked off, you fill it with epoxy or weld or whatever, drill right down here, 1/8 inch NPT fitting, boom, another 1/8 inch NPT fitting here, little tube, there you go, the oil is going to get up there. The name of the game is just getting oil up here. Whether you use this passage or not, I mean, what I'm probably going to do is tube it like so. Once the tube's in, it's going to be welded in. I'm going to see what my options are after that. More than likely, this passage is still going to be open. You see? And on the inside, it's not going to be welded on the inside. Okay? On the inside, this little hole here that you see left is just this hole. Okay? Now this hole all out here gets filled with weld. He comes in here, he fills that in, he fills all up under here, he starts down here, he gets all up under here, then he just comes like this and layers it in, and he'll even come across here and seal that whole thing in. This will all get boxed in with weld. Because if you just poured it out and don't weld this, even if you don't break through, this could be so thin you might not even know it. It could be 10,000ths and still look sealed. That's just a very weak point. If I took, say, this on a little hammer, bink, it'd be like an eggshell. I could crack right through it. When you have all that pressure underneath, there's a lot of vibrations, and this could pop. So might as well, even if you've done heavy porting, you might as well weld that up. If you have access to a welder. If not, you know, take your chances. Epoxy's your next best friend. I use epoxy in every intake. Never in an exhaust, but every intake I end up filling down here with epoxy a little bit. And whatever, if I've ever removed too much material, epoxy. But back to the intake valve. So I ordered today a seat. Outside, 1 3/4 inch. Inside is a little bit bigger than 3/8. Boom, 3/8 inch valve. Look at that. So this intake seat that's in there now is basically, if I remove this, that's going to be my inside diameter. So that being said, things you need to look at when you're doing the porting. So say I hold this in line with the air. Okay? So that's against that. What you need to see is this to be angled outward. If this is sitting like this, like on the other side of the head, look. See the angle that's sitting at? That's bad. See that? That's bad. That's just forcing. From here, you'll look at it and you'll say, oh yeah, that's fine. You know, that's perfect. But if you look, when you hold a straight edge, that air is going to be coming at the complete wrong angle. That's going to be coming in and just hitting the bottom of the valve. It's going to be forcing it right onto that valve. You want the air to be angled out. If not straight, a little bit out. Like this. See how that's angled out? So that's going to just swoosh in. You see here? It's a little bit out. You know? It's not in. It's a little bit out. So, that being said, you know, if you weren't putting in such a big intake valve, doing this tube is going to kill you. Because if this flow on this side of the head is angled in like that, or if you port this inside wall of your thing and make it any deeper, if this doesn't angle outward, you're in trouble. So if you hold this down your port and it's like that, you're in trouble. So in my situation, that's fine, because if I removed this seat and just held this thing, I can tell by the distance it is away down here that once that's removed, it's going to be straight. And once that's straight, that's perfect. So what I'm going to have is, now this is a 36 millimeter ID tube. So what we're going from is a stock 31 millimeter ID, which constricts down to about a 24. And then it goes back up to a 36. So it goes 31, 24 at the cross-sectional area, to I think back to a 31 at the smallest part of the seat, and then the valve is a 36. So 31, 24, 31 at the bottom, how the seats sloped in, and it comes back up to a 36. So what we're going to be going from 31, 24, 31, basically, we're going to be going from a 40 millimeter carb to a 36 tube to a 38 millimeter carb, I'm sorry. 38 millimeter carb to a 36 millimeter tube. This tube is going to be my cross-sectional area. And then we're going to be going to a 42 millimeter valve, but the inside diameter of the seat is going to be 38. So it's going to be 38, 36, 38 over the stock 31, 24, 31. So it's a significant difference of flow. I know if I, like in the other head that I did the other, like in this one, stock head, and this has a bad angle. Not only is this going to be so much more capable of flowing CFM, you can only flow so many CFM through a certain size hole. I posted a video before. I got dislikes. Wait until this head's done. You might have disliked it because you're not capable of doing this stuff. But this head is going to flow as much as a billet head. Period. I called Belmont. They have a 4-valve head. They made 4 in existence. I'm trying to get on the list to get another one of the 4. I'll post a picture of it now. Bam. That 4-valve head right there is $3,000. They're using 4 valves, and it flows a little over 200 CFM. I was flowing 170 in my other head. With this setup here, I'm going to be flowing over 200 CFM. Not going to say what, but well over. It's just physically impossible to flow that much through the stock restrictions. If you have not opened this up and got a true 36 millimeter cross-sectional area instead of like a 24, the biggest you can even go, I think, is like a 31. The biggest cross-sectional area without popping through everywhere, I think, is a 31. So you can maybe get 34, 35 up here. But that cross-sectional area is now the straw in the system. You know, you can only flow as much as the weakest link. So, and you can't just have it all straight pipe. You can, but you really want that nozzling effect of the cross-sectional area. That's going to increase the velocity. Now, if we go from 31, 24, 31 stock to 38, 36, 38, the flow is there. The flow is there. And I mean, I can make my cross-sectional area even smaller if I want to. And to tell you the truth, at this where I have to dent it to mimic the guide, it's going to be a little bit less than 36. So it's going to have an actual cross-sectional area. It's going to come from 38 millimeter carb. It's going to come down to a 36 gain velocity, go through maybe a
the 35 millimeter cross-sectional area, and then come up to that 42 millimeter intake valve. But the base of the seat where it tapers in is 38, 1.54, a little bit bigger than inch and a half, which is 38 is an inch and a half. So it's going to be flowing right in beautifully. I was there at the machine shop today. They had a Chevy small block sitting there with AFR heads on it. I took this tube and put it up to the intake, one of the intake ports on the AFR head. Exact same damn size intake port. Just letting you know. The power potential, the flow is going to be there. And on top of it being bigger, it's also going to have a much better port angle. That port angle is everything. Right now, it looks kind of shrouded up here, but when you take this seat back, say if I just took the seat out, and you see that outer wall, that's where the inside of the seat's going to be. The outside of the seat's going to be way up here, right by the piston, right by the edge of the cylinder. So the when I pull this back, I mean, it's going to be a beautiful short turn. This thing is going to be a big, massive flowing head. I'll bring it down to Dana Johnson's flow bench after that. We'll put it on there. We'll see what it flows. Anybody that thinks this is not the real way to system, I mean, welding this combustion chamber up, doing this type of porting, buying the aluminum tubes, buying the seats, buying custom 6 millimeter guides that are bronze and sourcing those from where, and then calling and having custom guides made with 6 millimeter stems with your length that you need and this valve size that you need, having them cut down and all that and all your angles put on. That's the stuff. That's where you're really getting it. Anybody that's running a stock head, you aren't making power. You're really not. You might think you are. You're not. There's a direct correlation between flow and horsepower. Period. So that being said, that's the head. So I've done 2 of these. This one and this one. Now this is a 38 millimeter valve. Look at that. You know? So that's 38 millimeter valve there. So this is a 36 millimeter inside diameter port. So a 38 is going to be the inside diameter of the seat. So, I mean, that's my cross-sectional area. It's massive. I mean, it's massive. I mean, look at that. You know, it's massive. That's going to be the smallest restriction in the head. So, that being said, let's talk about jetting. You know what? I'll do the jetting in another video. I just wanted to point out, I know some other people watch these other videos, and I got some comment. I've never had like a negative comment. I actually had someone say ha and something like that. I mean, you're chasing flow. There's one way to get more flow is to, how else are you going to get the air in there? How else, tell me how else you're going to get the air in there. Take the entire cylinder head off and put it back on every RPM, every rotation of the engine. You need as much air as you can get into there. That's your power potential. CFM, direct correlation. You just can't flow air through this tube. You need this. So, that being said, we'll go on to another video. I've rambled on enough. Hope you like these videos. There's just info in here. Just, you know, just spending some time in the kitchen looking at these engines. If you like them, hit the like button. It really helps me out. It'll also get the video seen. I'm only getting like no views, 60 views. I mean, what's 60 views? This is real knowledge. If you think that, you know, that people need to know this stuff or should be seeing this, click those like buttons so the video will actually come up in the browse search feature. It helps me out a lot, helps the video out a lot. I try to put I don't, you know, hide anything. All my secrets, all my tips and tricks I put out there, like every single thing. I lay it out on the line for you guys, so please hit that like button. Thanks, guys. Bye.